Okay, in part one of how I build my lithium battery banks, um, you saw me leave off with just preparing to start building my bus bars and then gluing them onto the batteries. Well, unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, you didn't get to see any of that. So they are all done, presto, and they're all done. Both batteries are done here. We're going to set one of these aside because we're just going to concentrate on one right now. So here we are. Let's do a little close-up here. As you can see, my copper wire has been shaped into the size I want and glued to this is the top, this is the power in, and then this is the bottom, and this is the negative out. So yeah, they're already done. It's been like a couple of days. The glue's been drying. They're on there nice and solid. And I know I'm going to get some comments saying that this is not the correct way to do it. Gluing these on there is just not going to work. Well, it does work. I would agree to that to a certain point. But it does work. Because I have already built a 12 volt 3S pack, 12 cell pack, more than a year ago. And I did it exactly like this. You can't see them, of course. You can't see what I did because I have it all sealed up in cardboard and zip ties and Kapton tape and all the rest to protect it. I have to be really careful when I'm connecting up to the positive and negative leads because it is not super strong. It will break if you really pry on it. So you have to be careful with that, but I've had tremendous success with this battery. I've used it for over a year, experimenting with different things, and it works fine. If this was going to be in an e-bike or any kind of an EV or any kind of a situation to where you're packing it around, I probably wouldn't recommend this. There's other ways to do it. I just chose to do it this way because it seemed to be simple, and I wanted to use stuff that I just have around the house. So there we are. So now the next step is to actually start soldering on my 5 amp fuse wire. It's this top one here. You can buy these little packets for like $1.98 or something on eBay. You get some 5 amp, 15 and 30 amp wire. I'm just using the 5 amp, and I'm simply gonna lay it across there like that, and that's going to be it to each bus bar. The soldering iron I'm going to use is going to have a very blunt end. I don't know if the camera can see that. The end is pretty flat. It's actually a worn out end, but it works really good because it's nice and flat, and you know, when I put it on there, it's going to have a lot of contact. And the trick is, when you're doing this, is to spend as little time on the battery, either whether it's the positive or the negative, as little time as possible, and as little time as possible on the bus bar too, because unfortunately, if you get it too hot, it will disturb the glue and melt the glue. So you gotta be pretty careful. You gotta be pretty fast. And the way I do it is I'm just going to do this side here, then I'll go over here and just keep doing it like that. That way it's giving that bus bar a little time to cool down, because if I just keep working on that continuously, it's going to get pretty hot and eventually come loose. So, and of course we got our nice solder still in the package there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do both sides of those, and then finally I will add soft wire. This is 14 gauge wire. I talked about that before. I'm not sure if I talked about that in the section that I lost. It might be, but we're going to do the soft wire this time. Not sure how long I'll do, but and then we'll do either one of these 14 gauge connections, whichever I need on there. And if anything's going to get hot, from this battery being used is going to be the 14 gauge wire, because this is 12 gauge solid copper wire. So this should be the first thing that will start to heat up. So that's kind of the way I wanted to do it. Forgot to mention the flux. We'll be using that as well on there. And then I don't know if I'll be adding heat shrink to this section here, probably a little bit. And then finally we will take and put cardboard over it to protect it. We'll do some electrical tape, but the finish will be the Kapton tape, and unfortunately I don't know where it's at right now. It's buried somewhere in a pile of stuff, but I love the Kapton tape, and that'll be the finished product on there. And next thing I know, we'll have a battery. But I forgot to mention one thing that I will add to this. We'll need to add a balancing cable. The longest one I have is this extension, and I think I'll have to use that. I do have some shorter ones, but I don't think they'll be long enough, so I'll just have to cut the ends off that extension and add that. I will also add this cool little voltmeter. That's all it is. It's just a simple little solder on there, voltmeter. I'll add a quick release for that so it doesn't sit there and run all the time. And that is it. And I did find my Kapton tape. Love this stuff. It is really good for lithium batteries, for sealing them up and everything. It's kind of expensive, but it works really, really good. So the next step is to start soldering on my 5 amp fuse wire right there. So let's get on with that.